This is the Big Breakdown, a long look back at some of the biggest stories we're covering for you at the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. This is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Here now, Tony Brueski.
And it just keeps going. So, just the other day, we're talking about the Duggars. The Tawny Town, it's the name of a community in northwest Arkansas. Police, they arrived at the Duggar family compound with a warrant looking for Kendra Duggar, who's 27 years old, wife of Joseph Duggar, mother of 4. She's not home, so they wait. And she eventually shows up, arrested on the spot, walked through booking at the Washington County Detention Center, mugshot taken, blank stare, visibly shaken. 83 minutes later, she's out on $1,470,000 bond. Photographer catches her in a passenger seat of a car outside the jail. Both hands are covering her face. Her husband has been in a cell since Wednesday. He's not getting out. He waived his extradition rights on Friday, which means Bay County, Florida now has 30 days to come collect him and bring him back to face a charge that, under Florida law, carries a potential life sentence. 72 hours, 2 members of the same household arrested, 2 separate criminal investigations running simultaneously in 2 different states, 4 children at home, age 3, 5, 6, and 7. Shouldn't they be proud of mom and dad? If you've been following the headlines this week and feel like the pieces aren't quite connecting, that's because most of the coverage has treated this as one story. It's not. It's actually 2. And you need to understand both of them separately before you can understand what this family is actually facing right now. On March 17th of 26, a father confronted Joseph Duggar about what had allegedly happened to his daughter, the girl at the time 9 years old when it occurred. She's now 14. The alleged incidents happened during a family vacation in Panama City Beach, Florida in 2020 at a residence on Danny Drive. She'd been carrying this for nearly 5 years before she said anything out loud. Not as a data point, as a reality. A child experiences something, doesn't tell anyone, grows into a teenager, and eventually they find the words. So for any dumb ass out there who likes to say, well, it took her 5 years. She was 9. I actually heard that over the weekend. Actually discussing this case in an Uber. When the dumbass driver brought up, well, it took her 5 years. Yeah, and she was 9. Even more crazy about that moment was the fact that my daughter was in the car with me, and she's about the same age as this girl in Florida who had this happen to her when she was 9. But don't be surprised when you start talking about this story or hearing more about this story that you hear a bunch of idiots going, well, it took her 5 years. Yeah, I'm sure that 9-year-old was sitting there plotting and planning her payday on the Duggars at 9. Oh, it's mom and dad. No, it's not mom and dad. It's not. Because in this case, Joseph admitted to it. Even when you have the jackasses that are saying things like this, it's like, hey, dumb fuck. He admitted to it too. Oh. Not to say that people can't make things up. They certainly do. But in this case, I'm sorry. He admitted to it. She was 9. His family has a track record. It is what it is. And it's pretty freaking horrific. So beware. Beware as this case gets discussed in the coming days and weeks of those who like to downplay these sort of things. Because I got news for you. Probably at 9, she didn't really know what the hell was happening. She thought this is normal. That's how people like this get away with this sort of stuff. So anyway, happy to share that little nugget. So she grows into a teenager, eventually finds the words. She tells someone. Her father listened, and then her father did something about it. Thank God. On March 17th, he confronted Joseph directly. According to the arrest affidavit released by the Bay County Sheriff's Office, a Town detective was quietly on the line during that call. Joseph didn't deny, allegedly, what the father was telling him. He admitted it to the father and then a second time to the detectives. Documented in that arrest affidavit. That admission is what produced the warrant. What the girl described in her forensic interview, per that affidavit, Joseph allegedly asked her repeatedly to sit on his lap over the course of the vacation. This is always such a big red flag to me. Anybody. Anytime there's like some guy asking somebody else's kid to go sit on their lap, it's like, what the... it's nothing. Yeah, you know what? It is. It's just kind of freaking weird these days. You know, it's always kind of been a little weird. If we're going to be really honest about it, it's always been kind of weird. It's just there wasn't enough adults sticking their heads up going, that's not appropriate. That's not appropriate. There's too many generations where we let this one go by and go, oh, they're harmless. They're just a harmless person. They would never do anything until it's like, oh, until they do something. Then it's like, oh, we didn't see that coming. Oh, really? Well, all the kids who felt uncomfortable sitting on everybody's lap for all those years might have had something to say of like, this is a little much. Like, there's a seat right here. I'll sit next to you. We can talk. We can hang out. I don't need to have part of my body near your parts. I don't really see the need for that in any way, shape, or form. But as so many do, so many brush it off. Oh, totally fine. Go take a blanket, put it around you and my daughter, and snuggle up together. What could possibly be weird about that? People are so stupid. Well, it's innocent. It's just, and I'm sure, I mean, look, there's plenty of people where truly it is. But you know what? Just don't do it. How about that? Just don't do that. Because you never know. If that kid, the last time some strange friend or friend of mom and dad's or family friend or whatever the hell they would consider themselves to be, had somebody do that, this sort of stuff might have happened. So while you may be the innocent one going, I've never done that. I would never do that. No one's ever done that to me. Great. Consider yourself really freaking lucky. Because a lot of people didn't. And just because that's your reality doesn't mean it's somebody else's reality or this little girl's reality. I can guarantee anytime somebody's sitting around going, come here, let's put a blanket over us, there's one thing going through her head, and it's not snuggle time. It's a shame we live in a world like this. Yeah, it is. It's a shame that people like this have been enabled for so long under the guise of God. Oh, they're religious, they're godly, they're wonderful, they would never... Yeah, they only have a track record of diddling children, that's all. What the girl disclosed in her forensic interview, per that affidavit, Joseph already asked her repeatedly to sit on his lap over the course of the vacation. As the days continued, he asked her to sit beside him on a couch and covered them both with a blanket. Under that blanket, according to investigators, he used his hands in ways no man should be using his hands on a small child. This happened more than once. At some point, the affidavit states he apologized and the conduct stopped. Well, that's good, because that seems to be how it works with the Duggars. Apologize and it's all good. Remember Jim Bob? Impossible. Remember the other one? The other one who was sent off to go work at the boys' camp and putting up drywall after he was doing it to his sisters. It's like, oh, he's a changed man. You stupid fucks. On March 18th, Town police received the warrant from Bay County and arrested Joseph Garrett Duggar, the seventh of Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar's 19 children. Husband, father of 4 kids, all under the age of 8, at his home in Town, Arkansas. The Florida charges are lewd and lascivious conduct, or I'm not going to say the word because we don't want to get flagged, of a victim less than 12. And lewd and lascivious behavior conducted by a person 18 years or older. So, under Florida statute 800.04, lewd, lascivious M of a child under 12 by a person 18 or older is classified as a life felony. Thank God. It's not a phrase used loosely in Florida criminal law. It's one of the most serious charges classifications on the books, sitting alongside murder and armed battery in terms of sentencing exposure. He could go away for life. Good. Put him there, throw away the key, put him in a cell with somebody named Bubba, who's been repressed for a little while and is ready to have a buffet. Duggar's coming to town. A conviction can mean the rest of your life in prison. Joseph is 31 years old. He waived extradition on Friday. The clock to his transfer to Florida is now running. That's case 1. Remember I said there's more than one case here? There is. There's 2. Oh! Maybe by the end of the week there'll be 3. Who knows? Case 2 is the one that's gotten less attention, and it deserves a little bit more. But let's understand what it actually means, though, too, okay? Because it is a completely different investigation involving different allegations with a different set of potential victims entirely. But when we understand why the second set of charges, or really the first set of charges for her, the wife, came down, let's understand it. Let's go through what it actually means. When a parent in an Arkansas household is arrested on child S charges and minor children live in that home, state procedure triggers an automatic home study. Investigators go to the residence. It's not punitive and it's not discretionary. It's protocol designed specifically to assess whether the children already in that home are safe. It happened here within days of Joseph's arrest. So he gets charged, gets arrested. He's going to go face it in Florida. Arkansas then has to go, because those charges were not stemming from his house in Arkansas. Different state, different set of charges. It's a different thing. Arkansas then sees the red flag and says, oh, red flag with this human being who has children in their home. Let's go see what's going on at the house. According to a source with knowledge of the case who spoke with Us Weekly, investigators went to the Duggar home and reportedly found rooms with door locks installed on the outside, not the inside, the outside, meaning children could be locked in their own rooms from the hallway. That specific detail has not been confirmed by police on the record, okay? So that's, Us Weekly is saying that. It's interesting. Because the investigation remains active and Arkansas law limits public disclosure in cases involving minors. We say it in the way the sourcing supports it. Reported by a source with direct knowledge of the case, not yet officially confirmed. So that right there, I guess, could possibly be enough to get you in a little bit of trouble, which is really what this is with the Arkansas charges. What is confirmed by Town Police Department press release is what the investigation produced. Both Joseph and Kendra Duggar were charged with 4 counts each of second-degree endangering the welfare of a minor and 4 counts each of second-degree false imprisonment. They have 4 children. The number of counts is not a coincidence. Under Arkansas law, second-degree endangering the welfare of a minor involves knowingly engaging in conduct that creates a substantial risk of serious harm to a child. Second-degree false imprisonment involves restraining a person without their consent and without legal authority to do so. Both are misdemeanor offenses, and that distinction matters enormously because Kendra Duggar's charges are categorically different in legal weight from the felonies Joseph is facing in Florida. Misdemeanor does not mean meaningless. False imprisonment of a child is false imprisonment of a child, but conflating a misdemeanor with a potential life felony does not serve you guys, and it doesn't serve accuracy. They are not the same thing. So that should be said. Kendra has not been charged with anything connected to the Florida case. Her charges are in Arkansas. They are separate. She was released on $1,470,000 bond and had a hearing now scheduled for the 23rd, which is actually as of the recording right now. And both she and Joseph have an April 29th court date in Elm Springs District Court, another town right around here. Yeah, we record here in this Northwest Arkansas. I've run into these folks at the restaurants. So that's important to note, to understand what's going on here. Kendra, can I talk to you for just a second? I know you got 4 kids. You've seen the track record of this family. I know you've been brought up in this madness. Run! 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 Run as far and fast as you can from these people. Nothing good will come of it. That's my opinion. That's my advice. I don't know what else to tell you. Does anyone have anything? I don't have anything. I mean, seriously. They don't watch TV. They don't use the internet much. They don't. So I don't know. I mean, if you've not seen it yet, go watch Shiny Happy People on Amazon. All right. That'll give you a much better understanding of the family and the IBPLS or whatever the hell their religion is called. And I use the word religion generously. It's a cult, in my opinion. And there's a lot of people in it. It explains it well. It'll help you understand how one might find themselves in this situation. And give you grace to understand that a lot of people, most of the people in this situation, they are victims. They are unknowingly victims. But again, everybody's an adult here at some point too. And at some point we got to use our own agency and go, you know what? Maybe this isn't the best option. Maybe I was swindled into something that's really not what is going to be best for me or my children. Maybe the best thing is getting my children as far away from this family as I possibly can. I don't know. Just a thought. That's how I'd be feeling if I were in your shoes right now. Now, the family responses, because that part of the story is just as revealing as the charges. Josh Duggar, remember Josh? The one who's already in prison, the oldest of the 19 children, currently serving 12 and a half years at FCI, Seagoville Federal Prison, convicted of receiving and possessing child CSAM material, some of it depicting children under the age of 12. He issued a statement through his attorney to the Daily Mail. He said his brother's arrest deeply saddened him. He spoke about the painful reality of false accusations. Oh, that's where this goes, kids. Yes, it's not, oh my God, this is horrible. I hope he gets the help he needs. I've been benefiting from the help I've been receiving in prison. No, it's just false accusations. Go into the denial route. Oh, helping the cause there, Joshy. He said the truth gets twisted into, and this comes directly from his attorney's statement, sensationalized fiction. I don't think his hand was sensationalized fiction to that 9-year-old. Seriously, I mean, really, or do you all consider your hands sensationalized fiction? Is that what you guys call it when you're doing your stuff? I'm up for some sensationalized fiction right now. Let me go to my dark, cordoned off hard drive at my used car dealership and engage in sensationalized fiction. Is that how you've reworded this shit in your mind to justify your existence? To justify sensational? Is that what the Lord calls it? Is that what the Lord called, or is that what Jim Bob called it? No, it's probably just you. Probably, I'm not going to put words in Jim Bob. But Jim Bob, what do you think of that? What do you think of your son referring to sensationalized fiction as describing, Joshy's problems over there and your other son's problems that he's admitted to on audio with an officer listening? Is that sensationalized fiction? Is it? Huh. You guys got weird definitions of sensationalized fiction. Because it's more so a damning harsh reality is what I like to call it. And the rest of the world does outside of the compound that doesn't fuck like rabbits. Yeah. Because to the rest of the world out here, you know who seem more like sensationalized fiction? Your family, your religion, all of that. Sensationalized fiction, that's the IBPL fuck you S, whatever the hell it is. That world, a lot of people look at it and go, that's got to be sensationalized fiction. And then we look at it closer, like, oh God, no, this is the seventh layer of hell, in my opinion. How it would be lovely if all of this was sensationalized fiction. Unfortunately, you guys brought the horror to the scene, and then when people call your asses out, it's, oh, sensationalized. Yeah, do you guys tell yourself whatever you need to get by, okay? Anybody need any money in their campaign? In their canteen? Their campaign. I was thinking of Jim Bob's run. In their canteen. Anybody need any money in their canteen? Over there, where Josh is. Anyone? It's curious. Josh might need a reality check of sensationalized fiction and reality. Joseph Duggar did not say it was fiction. Joseph Duggar allegedly admitted to this conduct to the victim's father and then a second time to law enforcement, documented in their arrest affidavit. So I don't think Josh even knows what's going on. He just immediately, the knee-jerk response to everything, I guess, seems to be sensationalized fiction, even though he admitted to doing it. There's no ambiguity in the record about whether Joseph said it happened. He said it happened, and the man convicted of downloading child CSAM material, currently sitting in federal prison, responded to his brother's admission by invoking false accusations and media sensationalism. Josh Duggar's appeal of his conviction failed in 23. He's scheduled for release on December 23rd of 2032. Jill Duggar Dillard, Joseph's older sister, one of Josh's documented victims, someone who spent years publicly and painfully distancing herself from this family, posted a statement through her family blog. She and her husband said they found out about Joseph's arrest through a text message from a friend, not a call from a parent, not a family meeting. A friend texted them a link to a news report. That's how they learned their brother had been arrested and charged with doing that to a child. The same way the rest of us did. Their statement condemned the abuse without qualification, expressed direct support for the victim and her family, and made no attempt to minimize what the charges described. They didn't go the sensationalized fiction route. And of course they wouldn't. They're respectable people who realized and saw the light of the cult they were being brought up in and got the F out. Notably, Jim Bob Duggar and Michelle Duggar, you know, the ones who are the moral authorities for the world, the parents of all 19 of these children, the architects of a public image built across a decade of network reality television show that talk like this, the couple who stood in front of cameras for years and sold America the idea that this household was the functioning model of faith, family, and wholesomeness. Well, they've issued no statement as of yet. Well, wonder if we'll get one at some point. Wonder if it'll be anywhere near the level of what Josh put out. I don't know. I'm curious. I have no idea. I have no way am I saying that they had any idea that any of this was going on at all. You know, who the fuck knows? Multiple media outlets contacted the Duggars family official media request website across multiple days following both arrests. No response, no comment, nothing. Too busy praying the sin away, right? We're sorry, we're busy praying it away. That's a joke. A man serving federal time for child charges called it sensationalized fiction. The sister, who was herself a documented victim condemned the charges immediately. And clearly, the parents of the 19 kids, 2 of whom are criminally charged in cases involving harm to children, have said absolutely nothing. There you go. 2 Duggar sons, one in federal prison on a child convictions of content. Trying to say it without getting flagged on YouTube. The appeal exhausted. Release date set for 2032. One now facing potential life. This is actually a stiffer charge. This is, if you're like, who's done worse? I mean, it's all bad. But in terms of charges and potential consequences, this is worse. Things just got far worse for the Duggar family. On a charge he admitted to before he was ever arrested, he's sitting in a county jail in Arkansas waiting for the state of Florida to come pick him up with 4 additional misdemeanor charges in his home state stacked on top. A wife arrested 2 days after her husband, facing her own charges in her own case, out on bond with court dates ahead. 4 children at the center of an investigation that law enforcement has said clearly is not finished. The compound in northwest Arkansas that became a crime scene. A family that built its entire identity around the idea that they had something the rest of us didn't. Moral superiority, whatever the hell they were doing. And has now watched that claim collapse twice in 5 years under the weight of criminal charges involving their 19 kids and counting. The deeper history of this family, the theology that shaped it, the closed belief system that made silence the default response to harm, the pattern that allowed the same damage to repeat across decades, that context lives in previous work. It matters. It's there if you want it. The story isn't that. You can go back and you can listen to some of our previous reporting on it. We have a lot more to come on it, too, in the coming weeks. We're going to be digging far deeper into this religion. I put it in air quotes. I don't know. Is it even classified as a religion anymore? I think that might have changed. I got to look into it. This story is 1 week, 2 states, 2 investigations, charges explained plainly, sourcing stated honestly, distinctions drawn clearly, because the people at the center of this, not the Duggars, the other people, deserve to have it told that way. A 14-year-old girl in Florida sat across from an investigator and described what had happened to her when she was 9 years old. She didn't have to do that. It took 5 years for her to get there. When she did, she set every single event of this week into motion. Everything, every warrant, every arrest, every charge, every mugshot, every statement from a prison cell flows directly from her decision to say what she said out loud. And she deserves for people to understand that. And 4 children in Arkansas, aged 3, 5, 6, and 7, have no context for any of this. They didn't choose this family, this house. They're the smallest people in the entire story, and they're carrying the most of it. Whatever comes next in these courtrooms and these investigations in these 2 states, they'll be living with the consequences of it for a very long time to come. Those are the people the story is about. And the victim in Florida. Not the Duggars. Them. Your thoughts in the comments section. On YouTube and Substack. I'm not surprised, are you? I mean, come on. Look at the ecosystem. When this is the recipe for people, this is what you get. Let's stop being surprised and start being preemptive. That's what everybody should be looking at with anybody in that religion. When you create a structure like this, you create people like this. Not all of them turn out to be like this, but you have certainly created a plateau for people with certain propensities to go certain distances that they otherwise would not have been, in my opinion. Again, your thoughts in the comment section. Our Jim Bob, is he just the most unlucky father in the world, just has the best of intentions, the best of everything, and gosh, it all just went to shit? Is this the Lord testing him on his faith? There's 1,000 ways people will look at this. And I'm not accusing him of any wrongdoing. But damn. Look at this group of monsters you made. Something went wrong. What was it? Again, your thoughts in the comment section. We'll continue our conversation there. Until then, I'm Tony Brueski. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast. This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski and Robin Drake.
14-year-old girl gave a forensic interview. The father made a call, and then Joseph Duggar allegedly admitted to everything. To the victim's father, and then again to detectives. And now he's sitting in an Arkansas County jail, about 7 miles that way from me, waiting to be extradited to Florida on felony child abuse charges. And his wife is facing her own counts in a separate but connected investigation in Arkansas. 2 states, 2 cases, a recorded confession, and a family with a documented pattern of handling exactly this kind of thing internally, because that's what you do. The legal picture here is as complicated as it is damning, and if anyone can break down what Joseph Duggar's defense actually looks like from the inside out, it's a criminal defense attorney who's seen cases like this from every angle. Bob Mata, defense attorney, joining myself and Robin Drake today as we discuss a lot, and we will start with the Duggar situation, and we invite your thoughts, your comments in the comments section wherever you are watching us right now. Let's start here. Bob, Joseph Duggar allegedly admitted to the abuse to the victim's father, and then to Tawnytown detectives who were on the line, reportedly confirmed during a recorded phone call. Walk us through, what a defense attorney is actually working with when a client has already made statements like that before an attorney is anywhere near the picture of what's going on here. I mean, what kind of situation are we looking at for the defense of Joseph Duggar?
A bad one for Joseph Duggar. Like, all jokes aside, it's the first thing I ask a client when they walk in, or a prospective client. Did you talk?
Yeah.
You know, did you make a statement to law enforcement? And that's typically where I'm at. With respect to whether or not it's going to be suppressible, there's going to be a lot of things you're going to have to look at it, because that's where you're at. If there's a statement out there and it's incredibly damning, the best that you can hope to do is defense attorneys look at it and say, all right, well, was it a tap? Was it an overhear? Did they go and get a warrant? In terms of, the overhear that they definitely have, but the statements with respect to the initial statement was that, and you've got 2 states involved, right? You've got Arkansas and Florida. Yeah. I think Florida they're wide open down there. The Sunshine State. Yeah. You can just do anything you want down there. They want everything out in the sunshine. I think that like Arkansas, and you might know, Tone, is a one person consent state. So, you're going to have to try to attack it, because once you see that it exists in the world, it becomes probably the worst evidence that they have against you, because it's a confession. There's no other way to slice it. I mean,
how do you go about going into a case like? I mean, is this a case that is likely to even go to a trial. I mean, once you have a confession like that, or is it some sort of a deal that is made, or is it, let's take this to trial and I'm likely to be found guilty, but I'm gonna negotiate this, I'm gonna plead this to be less than what they're saying it is that I did. I don't know. I mean, where does something like this go when this is our start off point?
Yeah, this is what I'm always talking about, and I'm always trying to remind people that a vast majority of cases do not go to trial. They get pled out. When I have evidence like this, it's typically, and I know about it on the front end. Like, so if I ask that question, did you make a statement? And he's sitting in front of me, or, if I've gone to do a jail visit and he's like, yeah, I made a statement, and then I'm saying, okay, well, what'd you say? And then he says, this is what I said. I'll say, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. I have to wait until we get the police reports. I have to see how they say that this went down. I need to see if there were warrants involved. And at that point, if there's a way that I can bring a viable motion to suppress, then we can try it. After that, if that fails, then we're dealing with a piece of evidence that's going to be impossible to get over. And what I'm recommending to you is that I start having a conversation about a plea. And we, but ultimately at the end of the day, the sticking point is always whether or not somebody wants to go to trial is not the lawyer's choice. Okay. Sure. All we can do is advise them. We think it's a bad idea. It could be a trial tax. If you plead this thing out, maybe we shave a couple of years off of it, whatever the case may be. But I mean, the reality is this thing quickly shifts into the latter of what you were talking about, where you're trying to work out a plea deal and you're trying to see if you can help them in any way in terms of shaving a bit of time off, But reality is when the state has that kind of evidence, and it's your own words. And these aren't Richard Allen confessions. Like,
right. I did, no torture involved here.
I guess I did it. Apparently I did it. This is the guy talking about it at length, things that only he would know. So it's a death knell to any kind of potential trial. So I'd be stunned if it didn't get pled out, but I've been stunned before,
Sure.
And Bob, I'm curious, how does, if it does at all, this family's got now a track record of some really important behavior with Josh beforehand. How is that going to enter into this at any point? And whether it goes to trial or it's going to be mitigated out beforehand through a plea deal. Is that looked at by anyone?
I think it's looked at probably by the state, but in terms of relevance, if it were to go to trial, I don't know that it would be relevant in terms of, because look, it's relevant to us in the real world.
Right. Sure.
But when you're talking about a trial, it's got to be relevant to the case that's before either the judge or the jury. And bad behavior of other family members, while it may show a pattern and that there were issues with this family, clearly, is relevant again in the real world. But in terms of this particular case, unless you're going with some kind of mental defect type of defense.
So actually, to follow on with that, I've been, as you'll know, I've been binge watching the Duggars. I've been reading Jill's book, and what's been really, really striking is the trauma that the other siblings were exposed to by Josh and now another. Yep. And I'm curious, as a defense attorney, how challenging is it to work with potential people, both prosecution and defense, that a lot of times the siblings are excusing the behavior, which it breaks your heart even more. They're downplaying, that they're just, they are really not wanting to hurt their brothers in earlier statements. So I'm curious how hard and challenging that is to work with as an attorney, trying to show the true criminality here, when a lot of times the people involved are trying to say, yeah, he did it, but it's not criminal. I don't care. I want, they just want it to go away.
Yeah, and that's that thing that we talk about, it seems like weekly, where, I'm kind of discussing the fact of the matter is that we're dealing with the defendant. So we're in a unique position that the state does not have any kind of access to the defendant. So like we're dealing with it on a more human level, whereas prosecutors are typically looking at it as a piece of paper, a name on a piece of paper, and facts. and we're just plowing through. Like, that's something that we always have to deal with. Like when I was representing Anthony Garcia, who, you know, his family came up with the money to hire us, and they're sitting there stunned that their son has been accused of murdering 4 people over 5 years, like stunned. Right. Like they had no inkling of knowing that he was capable of this. They had they couldn't wrap their mind around it, you know? So, I mean, every situation obviously is different, but in terms of like trying to get the family over the hump is also made more difficult depending on whether or not you've got a client who's made admissions to you as the attorney, or if you believe that your client is coming in and they're saying that they didn't do this, you get the discovery and you're tending to agree with them based on the lack of evidence. How do you handle that with the family other than preparing them for kind of the inevitable thing, which is he's going to be sitting at that defendant's table. The likelihood is that he's going to get convicted because juries want to hold somebody accountable for heinous acts. So it's a challenging aspect of it. And Robin, like you had kind of aptly brought up, like, I don't know if it was the last time we were on or the time before, you know, we have to wear a lot of different hats. I mean, there is that psychology hat that we have to put on in terms of how to deal with the family that, you know, is going to be resistant to wanting to assign blame or resistant to accepting the fact that they've done this thing. And, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, the bottom line is whatever's going on with the family doesn't affect in any way, shape, or form our representation of our client. I mean, our duty is to that person and that person alone. But the reality of the situation is you're trying to juggle all these different things when you're handling a case like that. And it's hard. And it's a difficult thing to tangle with, because you've got families that are devastated or in denial, and you're sitting there and you're like, man, you know, and frankly, I can't relay what my client is saying to me. You know, I mean, I've got attorney-client privilege, and I explain that to them on the front end. They're not able to sit in with us when I'm having an interview with my client because it breaks privilege, you know? So it's like, you kind of have to keep them in the dark to a certain extent, but you're trying to prepare them for the worst if they're, depending on where they're at with it. You know what I mean? If they're in denial, if they're just like refusing to be helpful in any way because they just don't want to hurt that person because they love them and it's their sibling. And, you know, you can't detach yourself from somebody you've unconditionally loved your entire life, and all of a sudden they've done something horrible, or they're accused to have done something horrible. It doesn't make you not love that person anymore. You know, I mean, it may make you think about them differently, but still, you know, and it's hard to quantify what love is in words. It's more feeling. You know, we've been trying to do it since we could put paper to pen to describe what love is. But yeah, I mean, all of it's challenging. And, you know, this family, man, the psychopathy of it in terms of it, it's just a lot.
Here's what gets me, because if somebody's not aware, they're part of this IBLP structure, which is a religion, and I put it in air quotes. They basically have a structure where you don't necessarily report wrongdoing to authorities on everything. There we go. There's, if you're watching us on YouTube, that is their little chart. Their umbrellas. There's Christ, which is the church, and, you know, Christ and Bill Gothard, you know, they hang out, they go to Denny's on the breakfast buffet, and they get the Rudy Tooty fresh and fruity, and then everything's great. And then there's the husband that's underneath God and Bill Gothard. You know, he's probably going to the IHOP. He doesn't quite get like the Denny's Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity. But you got the husband, and then everybody below the husband, which is the wife, the children, the victims, everyone. They all have to go to the husband and then report. And then the husband decides if this is something that is appropriate to report to the authorities. And we all know in the first round of this horror story that Jim Bob allegedly decided, you know what, we're going to kind of hold this one in. We're going to hold this one close to the vest when the allegations came in from his own daughters of their son doing things to them, until finally a family friend said, you know what, Jim Bob, this whole campaign thing that you got going on, your whole political platform that you're running on, these things, these virtues that you claim you hold dear to your heart that come from God himself, you're kind of going against all that shit by not turning your son in for doing what he did to your daughters. And then it was, okay, maybe we should do something about that. You kind of got, it's a different aspect over here because Jim Bob's, as far as we know, is not involved in this conversation, although who knows, the day is young. But what we understand is that Joseph here, this is 5 years ago they did this when the girl was 9. He was like 25, 26. He's sitting on a couch with a 9-year-old several times with a blanket over them, and then he's doing things with his hands. And that's all we need to say. This is what's going on 5 years ago. And then the girl finally comes out, says this, admits it, tells it to her father. The father calls Joseph and says, hey, I hear something happened on the couch with my daughter. Joseph comes clean. And then he gets the officer on the line from Arkansas, and then he comes clean again. And it's not clear if Joseph was aware the officer was on the line. I'm going to take a wild guess that the answer is no. Right. But he did then again say, yes, I did this.
See, that's that over here thing that I'm talking about. So,
yeah,
like if you're going to get an over here, I mean, we've handled cases where it does, but like typically if it's a law enforcement over here and they're using a CI and typically it's somebody that's involved with that person and or a relative of the victim. Most of the times it's a baby mama or a parent of the child that was abused, that was in a relationship with that person. Because you see it all the time. You see it with like in boyfriend, step-parent relationships where you see abuse happening, and then there's an outcry. Many times after the relationship has been terminated for whatever reasons, and then at that point they make the outcry. The kid does, and then the parent goes to law enforcement. They're like, all right, this is what we need to do. Yeah, we're going to go in. We're going to get a TAP warrant, an over here warrant, and we're going to be listening. So you're not necessarily, it's kind of like when they'd wire somebody up, except it's via phone, phone calls. So, but it's like, you got to go in. Obviously they're going to have the probable cause to get it. And many times, and the cops are literally sitting there, like listening, just like in the movie. I mean,
how much does this complicate it when you have a family that doesn't believe in going to police when this sort of stuff happens? I mean, they're treating it like, oh shucks, you caught me. It makes me curious. Like, I wonder how honest he's going to be with his own defense attorney. When they hold all these things in close until they're called out on, which seems to be the track record, that's got to make things a little bit more complicated and illegal. But they always, and they hold religion as the reasoning for their thought process or their lack of accountability under the law. Does that play in at all under the law? Their religion and their belief system of, well, we handle these things internally and we don't go to the law, even though, under the law we have to, but we don't, because our religion supersedes it.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah.
Well, and you saw the guardrails. We talk about guardrails on these things, and when Tony had the graphic up of the umbrella, Christ, Father, whatever, those are the guardrails. Nowhere in those guardrails did you see legality, state law, federal law. There was no guardrails.
They invent their own.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: how did it work for Lori Vallow? They were all just vessels. They were demons. They weren't even humans anymore. And it's like, in that case in particular, I'm like, this woman's batshit crazy. You know what I mean? And like the challenge for the defense in that case is that they don't have the insanity defense available to defendants in that state. You can only go in and attack, kind of the mens rea portion of a statute by saying this person could not form the requisite intent because of a mental defect. So they have like a semblance of it, but like you're not going to be able to lean on religion if it entails being a pedophile or murdering people. You can't say, well, that's what our religion calls for. We keep it all in house. We deal with it. We deal with it on our own. That's
it's also interesting too. Just the difference between Valo's small crazy cult mentality. And I mean, she had roughly their followers, of people of their minds that they had roughly 5 to 10, maybe 15, 20 at their height until the real crazy came out. Yeah. But it's interesting. But with the IBLP, this is a massive, massive group that has tons of social proof that's reinforcing itself about how to handle all these situations. And so, defense. Yeah, you're right. It does not fit within the legal guidelines of anything of what is right or not right. But I wonder how much they might try to fall back on. Hey, this is the way we handle things. This is how we, because I mean, their reform project for Josh was to send him away to one of the free labor camps that's run by IBLP. Seriously, it is labor. They got labor camps for kids.
It's kind of like Scientology in a way. It's like Sea Org to a certain. They're kind of like Scientology light in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
but way out there where it's exposed to everyone. It's like you can sign up, go to the website. You can literally sign up right now if you want to go to one of their clinics and camps. I was looking at it right before we came on air.
Oh, I saw it. There's a workshop coming up in April that maybe we should take a field trip to.
Yes, their videos on authority are really interesting.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is. It's a non-starter in terms of the. I mean, there's the separation of church and state exists for a reason.
Sure.
Not in this case,
right? I mean, well, maybe not to them, but to the eyes of the law, it does. So, and that's what matters. It's a really bizarre case, and it's just, I mean, how did it work out for the Catholic Church? When all that started coming down the pipe with the priests and the real issues that they were having with molesting young boys, and the same with the Boy Scouts, I mean, like all these kind of, institutions that have existed that really put predators in a prime position to be able to do what it is that they most desire doing. Eventually, you hope that the kids are going to finally start outcrying and it's going to be made public, because it's like that dominion and power that's held over these kids in terms of, and then when you add the family dynamic in, it just makes it all that much more difficult.
It's bred into. I mean, this kind of control is bred into them. I mean, that's 100%. Why it's so different from these other cults that start later in life, as Tony and I were talking about yesterday. Right. This is from birth. It is so you don't get over indoctrination that is part of who you are from all. It's only memories they have. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that they don't know any better because that's all they've ever known.
You could. I mean, you might be able to actually, but they did get out there. I mean, that actually is an interesting argument.
Still not a defense, though.
Right. The problem is
it's not.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
The other thought to this, and this is just pure conjecture, he hasn't been charged with anything else. This sort of shit never happens in a vacuum. Does anyone for 1 second believe that it just was he got a wild hair one day?
It was a one-off.
It's a one-off. I'm just gonna get this blanket and go sit with this 9-year-old over here. And I got some questions. I want to experiment. I mean, I don't think that's how this went. No. I'm thinking there might be a trend and a track record, and there might be other victims. Again, hasn't been charged with anything, but I'm gonna take a wild guess if we're just gonna base it on reality and how we know these fuckers work. There's probably more people,
and they don't even know their victims. So that's what's
and that's the thing.
They don't know their victims because it's the only life they know. This is the way it is.
It's anybody who had interactions with these pieces of shit with their children needs to be having some very serious conversations. The problem with that statement is most of the time they travel only within their own sect, within their own cult, within other cult members. So all the cult members, all the fathers who are right below Goddard and Jesus at Denny's, they're all ready to be like, the buck stops here. We'll handle this internally. But I would hope to God, literally, it's time to come forward. And if they do, and if there's a litany of more people that come out and have a horror story against Joseph Duggar, again, not saying there are, I have no idea, but if there are and they start coming forward, this is going to be the worst PR nightmare the Duggars have ever seen. They thought Josh was bad. Wait till this one continues to come forward.
It is, but it goes to what Robin was saying. Like the people that you think most about in those situations are the kids, because they're indoctrinated from birth and they know no different. And if you're not educated that something is wrong, because that's the thing that you deal with and we dealt with in this country forever until they started educating kids in school about abuse, and you are not the problem here. It's the predator that's the problem. It's not your fault. That person is doing something that they shouldn't be doing to you. And unless the kids are taught that, they don't know.
They don't know. The most striking word watching the saddest TV specials I've been watching on this, and then reading on Jill's book, is the most powerful tool they use nonstop is shame. Yeah, they shame these kids into behaviors, and the most striking thing about that is who else? What other kind of horrendous human beings use that same power of shame? People that victimize children.
100%.
So it's exactly the same.
It's where they live.
Same behavior.
Yes.
These idiots better think long and hard before they get on the bandwagon of we love all of our children and we hope everything and get on the band like they did behind Joshy, where they were just like, we love him, and then they just kind of go silent. They better think long and hard about it with this one, especially if there ends up being a lot of allegations that start coming up against him, because they're already on the wrong side of history. But if they want to get even further deep, go ahead, dig in. Dig on in. Dig on in behind Joseph. That'll work out well for you.
This is why it's so challenging, because these cultures inoculate themselves from the outside scrutiny by marrying internally. Exactly. That's why the father has to approve the courtship. He can only court someone that the father approves, who's going to be someone who's already indoctrinated into the system. And so when you have that insular, self-perpetuating cycle of crazy, then it's nothing ever comes to light. Because I was looking at the stats on this. We talked about yesterday, Tony. It's like the Amish have a lot of similar problems, but they actually are so cloistered that they don't interact with English all that often, and so it doesn't really come to light. But when you're looking at the raw numbers for legal cases for these types of cases, they're on par exactly with each other. Mm-hmm. But this group actually interacts more with the outside world than the Amish do. And it's not disparaging any of these things. We're just talking raw numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, to kind of go back to it, it's not just that shame aspect, but they're taught there's a normalcy thing that they're indoctrinated into as well, that this is normal. This is how it's supposed to be. And again, if you're a child and you don't know any better, how are you supposed to know to outlie if you're being taught?
Did you see?
That's brainwashing. I mean, it's
totally.
Yeah.
And just talk about the normalcy of things. Part of the most horrendous thing, I called my wife, and she leaves her room when I start watching these things on TV, right? And I'm watching one of the videos of them giving instruction. One of the church leader up there giving instruction on how to properly spank a child on stage. He bends the boy over his knee on stage, shows him how to spank him, how he's going to love him more for him. And then he didn't give him a big enough hug. He spanked him some more and said, now give me a bigger hug.
Yeah. I don't know how people
That's exactly what trauma bonding is called.
I don't know how people watched it's not like the Duggar show was ancient history. This was this was just a few years ago. This was like 10 years ago on TLC.
And it's all in your town, Tony. It's always in your town. That's what I'm curious about.
So many people. Come. You'll find. Wait till July. You'll come join the cult.
It really is always in your town, man.
There's so many here. I know. But the thing is, so many people watch this damn show and it's got their warm and fuzzies out of it. How does anybody look back at the clips of this show and not be completely creeped out?
Same like Ruby Frankie.
It's
just exactly like Ruby Frankie.
I was creeped out back then watching it. I don't respect all religions. I think some need to be called the fuck out, and this is one of them. We need to stop respecting everybody that claims what they're doing is a religion when it's really just coercive control. I mean,
100%, but you're never going to be able to stop it because
you're not. Yeah,
because of the amendment.
But we need to, as a society, not respect it socially. We need to call this shit out and not be like, oh, isn't that cute? You all like to wear skirts and repress your women. Oh, you have the right to do that. That's super, and you do have the right to do it. I have the right to say you're batshit fucking crazy, and these women, I hope to God, get away from you and disown you and never speak to you for the rest of your life, and you die in a flaming pit.
Yeah.
But that's my right to say that too. But we need to do more of this rather than look at it as, oh, it's cutesy. Don't they make nice omelets when you stop at the Amish restaurant or whatever? Insert religion that represses human beings here. It's sickening. And I'm so sick of pretending that there's something moral or godly or wonderful going on behind the closed doors that none of us see until they're fucking kids.
But T, it's like for every person like that thinks that it's just adorable and look at how cute and all that, there's people like us. But
there's not enough.
I watch that shit, I'm like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever seen.
I know.
People are freaks. But to each his own.
Yeah.
Therein lies the rub. But ultimately, the accountability aspect of it, and it's that thing where you're really from the law enforcement side of it. When they're trying to infiltrate, it's so damn hard.
It is.
Because of that protective bubble in terms of who they allow in. It's like I've done Mike King with his, who's got his channel Profiling Evil. But like when he went in and was able to infiltrate that particular cult down there where they had done essentially the same thing. And they had essentially bought like an entire neighborhood. Yeah. So they were insulated from the outside world. And it's those kids that are born into it that you're concerned with more than anything else, because consenting adults, I always sit here and wonder, how do people get brainwashed like that? And I'm talking about like doctors and educated people where I'm always like, nobody's ever brainwashing me into some crazy shit like that. But then you see people on an equal educational level that are brainwashed into it. And it's, obviously you have to dive deep into what's going on with that person that puts them in a unique position to be so susceptible to it.
Validation. Acceptance and
Yeah.
validation is a very, very powerful lever of influence over people.
100%.
And when you use that acceptance and validation and you throw some love bombing in there and you're valued and seen for who you are, and you have any inkling of not having that in one aspect of your life, I don't care how educated you are, I don't care how emotionally intelligent you are, you can be extremely susceptible to it.
Yep.
I do believe, though, that when as I was talking to Tony about this, hard to imagine us, like people that really dive deep and try to understand what's going on here, of not being inoculated against it. I do think we're inoculated against it just because we're fascinated by it.
Right.
But yeah, and that's what it comes down to. When groups and organizations offer a path to calm the chaos in your brain, and they always start out with the high level love bombing or validation or seeking of acceptance, all the things that our brain, the big four, are firing when you're getting, and they're not getting it from any other aspect of their lives. That's when it starts getting rooted and starts getting some traction, and then it's the slow build, it's the grooming into it.
100%, man. 100%.
There's so much, and there's going to be a lot more to come on these. These
and I hate that case.
I know. It's going to be.
I like the case we're going to be talking about later today. That's what I like seeing happen to pedophiles.
I've been looking forward to that one, Bob.
Your thoughts in the comment section on Substack and YouTube. We'd love for you to weigh in and give us your thoughts.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.